Excellent. Thank you, Corey. Glad to see everybody here today. We have a lot of venues from all over the country, it looks like. So I'm really happy to see everyone. And I think this will be a nice session for everybody because we're all in different places right now with our social media campaigns. And I think there's really two important pieces to it. One is the design, and then one is kind of the promotion and the amplification of the design and the things you're doing. So I was really excited actually when Corey and I and Allie started talking about this idea because it really brings together all of the pieces that I think we're all looking for with our social media campaigns. So my expertise is really on the side of kind of SEO, social media, kind of the data side of things. Allie's going to bring the kind of design flavor of things. She actually manages a lot of the social media posts and designs and even email headers and things like that for unique venues and a lot of the unique venues members. So I think we're going to get both sides of this, some great information on this today. So without further ado, let's dive in. We're going to actually be switching screens back and forth a little bit because, today we wanted to make it a little bit more, well, quite a bit actually more interactive. So we have kind of a primary presentation piece and then we're going to hand off back and forth and Allie will show us how to do some of the secret tricks of the trade. So Allie, do you want to say anything about yourself or kind of your thoughts on social media before we get started?
Just thank you guys for inviting me to be part of this webinar. And like you said, Scott, this is a more interactive webinar. So throughout the presentation, I'll be showing you the design platform Canva. And basically what I want to say before we get started is there are a handful of wonderful design platforms that you can be using to design any of your marketing materials, whether it's, email campaigns or social media marketing or printed materials. A lot of designers use the Adobe Suite. But for this instance, we're going to use Canva. It's extremely accessible to just about everybody. It's extremely affordable and it's very user friendly, which is why we're going to be highlighting this platform today. And of course, if you have any questions outside of this webinar on certain things regarding Canva, please just email me. I'd be happy to answer questions for you. But I just wanted to let you know that that's why we're highlighting Canva today, because it's affordable, accessible, and very user friendly. So
Awesome. Yeah, and actually we're not using PowerPoint or Google Slides today. We're actually using Canva's presentation feature to show our slides today, which is pretty cool. So you can use Canva beyond social media. You can really use it for all kinds of different design purposes in your business or organization. So great. So why is design so important with social media? We have some statistics and some just data to kind of look at. One is that a more cohesive design actually ends up converting people 3 times better than kind of one-off messaging. So, a lot of times we try to find our own voice in social media channels that's kind of unique. Maybe we have an Instagram channel that's, has someone managing it a little differently than Facebook, but the design piece and the actual imagery that you use does need to be fairly cohesive. And there is a lot of data that shows that it converts customers a lot better. And not only does it convert better, but people actually are willing to spend more money if they kind of feel like you have your act together a little bit, as a business, and having social media profiles that are updated recently, that have similar look and feel and headers and the icons are the same and that kind of thing. And this goes beyond just, social media. I mean, the more of an expert you are, the more money you can charge, right? So your venue, if you are just a wedding venue or you are just a conference center or just a historical cultural center or venue, like something like that, people might be willing to spend a little more because you are kind of a unique proposition to them. So I think that plays into social media quite a bit. And then we also have different customer types and customer personas that we're maybe trying to reach. So this is something that you should consider, if you are a venue that has weddings, but also conferences and retreats and different types of spaces that people might want to use. You are talking to people that have different levels of experience with venue planning. You have people that you're talking to that are in the different phase of their planning. They might just be discovering, looking for places. They may also now be moving down the customer journey and into a decision-making process. So think about that in your designs, and think about that in what you're putting out in your different social channels, because you do have different people that you're talking to, and they're in different places of their planning. So those are some kind of important things to think about. Allie, will you go over some of the kind of brand identity pieces that we can talk about with social media?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as marketing your venue, and even if you're a planner, say you have your own planning business, as far as marketing your own business as well, one word that sticks out from the previous slide is cohesive. And when it comes to branding, that's really what you want. You want your identity to be cohesive, and you want it to basically show your potential clients and your target audience that you are a trustworthy venue and you're a trustworthy planner, so they want to do business with you. I've done 2 webinars previously, one on creating a branding standards kit. And the last one I did as well, it all talked about building your brand so that you were a trustworthy, established venue. So I think that's what it comes down to when you build your brand identity, is building trust. And when it comes to marketing, we don't want to leave out social media because it's so prominent, especially these days, and it's a great lead generator for you as a company. So whenever you're marketing your business or your venue on social media, you want to make sure that your brand is consistent and cohesive, whether it be, Scott was talking about the customer journey, whether it be through their email campaigns they're receiving from you, and then they click on, your social icon in the email campaign and they go to your social media platform. You want to make sure that your brand is consistent in its look. So that's, your logo, your color palette. One thing is your image filters that you're using, which we'll dive into when we talk about our Instagram social media marketing. But all of these have really small, detailed things that kind of combine to make one big brand, right? So you want to make sure that it's all consistent throughout. And not only the way that your venue looks from a visual standpoint, but also the way it sounds and the way it reads. Meaning, you want to make sure that your brand voice and your tone is consistent when you're posting your captions on social media. So we'll talk about Pinterest towards the end of our webinar here, but a lot of people post their blogs or pin their blogs to their Pinterest boards to drive traffic to their website. So you want to make sure that when you're writing your blog posts, your tone and your voice is similar in your blog, and it's the same as it is in your email campaigns, and it's the same as it is in your Twitter captions or your Instagram captions. Your call to actions are similar throughout. And then also you want to make sure that you're maintaining the right platforms for your business. You don't have to have every single platform available to you. You don't have to have a TikTok, a Snapchat, an Instagram, a Facebook. There's so many. You really want to dial in, find out who your audience is and what kind of business you're trying to attract, and then go from there and use those social platforms to reach those clients. So as long as you're consistently posting on 2 or 3 platforms, it will be a great lead generator for you to bring in more business.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely some good points. So you're talking about the brand as being so important. So let's take a look at how we set up a brand kit in Canva. Allie's going to go through this and show you how you kind of set up different fonts and different colors and all that fun stuff. So you should be able to see Allie's screen now, and take it away.
Okay, so if you're not familiar with Canva, you can set up your own brand kit once you create an account with them. And basically your brand kit houses all of your brand colors. So as you can see our Unique Venues primary colors in here, our secondary palette. I also have Intern Housing Hub in here. and some other clients that we've worked with. But you can also upload your brand fonts. And if you've attended my past webinars, we've talked about the importance of typography. And so this is a great way to keep everything consistent in all of your designs because it's already housed in here for you. And when you're creating something, you don't have to keep uploading things. It's already at your fingertips. So for the purpose of this webinar, as a quick tutorial, because we have a lot of information to get to, I kind of created this fake venue that we'll be talking about, and it's called the Toronto Institute of Art. So our fake venue is a campus in Toronto. It's an art campus, and it hosts events, and their target audience is more of a modern audience where, you know, people want to go that have, you know, a blank canvas. They can showcase their work. They can get married there. So they host weddings, they host conferences and meetings and different types of special events. So for this webinar, I created a sample palette. So basically what you want to do once you're in Canva is you can click add and discover palettes, which I've already done here. And I created webinar samples. So I'm just going to type in here our name. And I've already added a couple palettes here. So our palette is very moody and, for lack of a better term, stale. But I'm going to add one more color to our palette for our brand here. So when you're adding them, Canva requires you to use hex codes. There's different types of codes you can use whenever you're using graphic design. So, you know, we have the RGB codes and we have CMYK, but for Canva, we keep it simple. We use hex codes. And so what you want to do is you want to do your hash or your pound sign, and then you want to add your code in. So I have mine written down here. And then just hit enter and click out, and it's easy as that. So you can add as many colors as you want to your code. You also can upload any kind of fonts that you want. You can go onto Google. You have Google Safe fonts that you can download straight from their site that you can upload into your brand kit as well. As you see here, Unique Venues' fonts are Open Sans, and they're already in here for you to use. So as we do tutorials, I'll be referring to this brand kit throughout the presentation.
All right. And there are some tools out there that I'm aware of that I've used where you can upload an image, for instance, your logo, and it'll tell you what color is being used in that image. And there's also some tools with the fonts too. So you can actually go out and find out what font is being used in a maybe a competitor's ad if you like one of their social media posts, or if you have some font that you liked in the past but you don't know what it is, then you can go get the free version and load it up.
Yeah.
So that's great.
Going to add to that as well, Scott. If you're on somebody's website and you really want to know what kind of font they're using on their site, you can kind of highlight the text and right click and click the word. You'll see a drop down come up and it'll say inspect. So, and then it'll pull up the coding here. So you kind of have to be familiar with coding, but it'll be easy to find the font and you can see what kind of font they're using on their website.
Very cool. That's a great idea. That's a super nerdy idea,
It
but
is super nerdy.
Really well.
Definitely super nerdy, but it's a way for you to be able to find it if you're familiar quickly, what font they're using. So
very cool. All right. Well, let's switch gears back. I'm going to take the screen back here and we'll start going over some of the individual platforms that we're going to talk about. So we picked a group of platforms that we thought would be useful to look at today. The first one's going to be LinkedIn. Then we're going to look at Twitter. Then we'll get into Facebook. Then we are going to move into Instagram. We're going to look at YouTube with some ideas on how to get a better both SEO visibility and also better visibility for your thumbnails and things that you're uploading in YouTube. And then also Pinterest, which I think is one of Allie's favorites. So she's got some great ideas for that. So
Scott and Allie, just a little anecdotal information. For those who filled out the first poll, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter seem to kind of all be in the same realm as preferred platforms or platforms that are being used. we listed a lot. Snapchat and TikTok and Pinterest are on the lower end. So just so you know.
I think I saw Snapchat was 0% usage.
0, yeah.
Yeah, so definitely, there is a theme here, right? Is we need to make sure that we are looking at platforms where our potential customers are. So if they're not on Snapchat yet, maybe that you don't need to spend a lot of time on Snapchat. So let's get into LinkedIn. And just a reminder, this is being recorded, so you don't have to write down, the 300 pixel by 300 pixel with PNG, JPEG, and GIFs. You can get that if you go and download this afterwards. And some of this information, obviously you can search in Google, but there's some good information here just from a design standpoint that you'll be able to incorporate into things like Canva and create some custom headers and logos and things like that. So we have put together the sizes and kind of requirements for each of the platforms as we go through. So let's talk a bit about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, it's obviously a business platform, but we have clearly a situation where people are attached to the brand. So people can say they work for your company, whether they do or not, or whether they have previously been an employee and they just haven't changed their LinkedIn profile. So that's something to keep in mind. If you are a larger organization or even a team of 3 or 4 people, your personal LinkedIn profiles are going to be seen by people that go to the company page. So that is something to keep in mind from a design standpoint. Do you want to have a cohesive header that everybody has, or at least put the company logo in someone's header along with their photo? If you're in more of a sales role, your LinkedIn profile is probably going to be used more frequently than someone who's in an operations role. So just something to think about. Recruiting is also an important piece here. A lot of people that are looking for jobs are actually going to be looking at a company's LinkedIn profile. So you want to make sure that you are representing your brand well. If you're at a university, representing the university well, because people may find you if they're looking for jobs in your department or other departments that kind of go outside of your area. So the header banner is also an important place to look at for brand experience to really happen. We have 2 examples up here: Boston University and the University of Miami Conference Services. Both of them have beautiful headers that are incorporating kind of wide angle shots of the venues and venue spaces. Boston University is even using a logo that has a little bit of some sparkle to it there. And that's kind of cool to see as well. We do see that venue leads are coming through LinkedIn, especially when there's already a mutual connection, maybe a second or third person connection that someone has. So it's something that it's not a set it and forget it kind of thing. I think popping back in on LinkedIn, doing some personal updates, if you're again in a sales role, for your company page, doing some updates seasonally probably makes a lot of sense. So definitely don't forget about your LinkedIn, because it is definitely becoming one of the more heavily used business social media sites out there. In fact, they probably are the business social media site out there amongst all of them. So Allie, do you have any kind of design ideas or things to think about with LinkedIn profiles that we can mention?
I think when it comes to your own personal LinkedIn page, not your business, but your personal one, I think it's important to absolutely make sure that you have the cover image. Scott, do you want to hover over and point to which one that is? Yeah, it's really important to have one of those, because if I'm a recruiter, or if I'm somebody who might want to be doing business with you personally, maybe I met you at a conference or something, and I see, you have your profile picture on there, but it's just like the generic LinkedIn banner background, it might tell me that I don't know, it might not show me that as a marketer, you're not putting that extra step into your marketing efforts for your own self. So I would definitely recommend making sure that you have a cover image on your own personal page. And that's something you can do in Canva. They have templates in there for you to use, and you can use their stock images included. Mine personally has just a Canva template on mine. So I think that that's definitely something to remember. And Scott, I have a question. Do you think it's fair to say that LinkedIn is more B2B than B2C, correct?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for, a professional meeting planner that works at, let's say, a Fortune 500 company, and they're looking for a conference center or an event space, that they are probably going to find someone on LinkedIn that's in the role that they're expecting to reach out to, if they're in that mindset. So yeah, I definitely agree. And also, vendors, think about that. The vendors you use, they're probably on LinkedIn. If they're not, you could give them a little nudge to get on, and also talk about you at your venue space, how they work with you. So there's definitely some cross pollinating ideas. That's such an old word, but cross pollinating ideas there, that you could use with other vendors or people that you work with in the industry. Tourism associations are all on LinkedIn, that kind of thing. So yeah. Okay, let's move over to Twitter. Allie, do you want to talk about some Twitter posting suggestions and ideas here?
So as far as Twitter goes, for your company page, you can see some examples here. And Scott, if you want to kind of circle the first top left one. Oh, you want to go back? You'll see highlighted here in the blue. Yep, right there. That's for your company logo. And that will be beside all of the tweets or the sharing that you do. So you want to make sure that you have your company logo in there. And whenever you're sharing an in-stream photo, I just want to be clear what that means. If you're sharing a post, maybe you're sharing a blog post from your website, an in-stream photo is the photo that you would be using to go along with that content. And that's the size that that image would need to be.
Awesome. And these obviously show up differently on your phone versus if you're on desktop. So that's
Yeah.
a consideration too with sizing, right?
It is, absolutely. And what I'll do is, Corey, when you send out the email with the webinar slides and the video recording, I'm going to include a link to Sprout Social. There is an amazing article by Sprout Social. If you're not familiar, they're a wonderful company when it comes to social media marketing and managing. And they have a great blog article about the different sizing and what you need to consider for desktop versus mobile. And Scott had mentioned something to me earlier today outside of this webinar, is that something to consider is that with technology always changing, it's different sizing is going to change at different times as well. So it's always good to be up on and current on your sizing. So this article is up to date. They constantly are keeping it current for us to use as a resource. So we'll share that with you as well.
Awesome. That would be great. So let's talk about some best practices and ideas, also on Twitter. So, I've mentioned this a few times, determine if Twitter is really where your customers are. And if it is, then make sure it's part of your strategy. If it's not, then you probably don't need it. I mean, I get asked this question all the time. Where do we need to be on social media? Do we need a Twitter? Do we need Instagram? Do we need Pinterest? Should we be on TikTok? Whatever the flavor of the year is for social media channels, everyone's curious if they need to be on it. So, I would say Twitter has, a lot like LinkedIn, they've kind of become a certain tool for certain things and certain people. And one of them is, quick bursts of information, news, things like that. So unless you're like an editorial site or putting out a lot of kind of current day-to-day information, like an athletics department might be putting out scores for all the teams every day, you may not need to be on Twitter if you're a venue. That being said, if you do want to be on Twitter, you should definitely follow some of the people that you want to be influenced by your brand and by seen by your brand. Just being on Twitter and posting things isn't going to get you to be seen. You need to actually interact with people, follow them so you can, post comments and things like that. So that the amplification part of Twitter is actually using Twitter. So if you're not going to personally use Twitter and kind of be involved in the ecosphere of Twitter, it may not be a good place for you. So that's just kind of a big thing to consider. And there are, of course, mobile apps and things like that for Twitter, and you can set up, tweets to go out at certain times if you want to. So you could do it if you're not super involved in it and still make it look pretty good. But definitely look at that. Also, hashtags are important. They're basically categories. A hashtag or a tag on a website, that's basically a categorization tool. So they are still important. I remember 10 years ago, or I don't know how long ago, everyone was hashtag crazy. What hashtags do we use? Well, they're really just keywords. And what I like to do on Twitter and also Instagram is put out maybe 2 or 3 hashtags, and one of them is kind of a really defining thing about what my post is about, and then maybe one is brand reinforcement, and then one is more of like an action phrase, like book your wedding today, hashtag book your wedding today, something like that. That's a little bit kind of a call to action in hashtag form. That's kind of fun, and it's something that you can kind of use as part of a marketing piece as well. Also, you can create ads on Twitter. So they have their own self-serve ad platform. And think about, people that may want to see your content, whether it's a tourism, prospective company profiles. You could go through and find people or companies that are in your area that you are hoping to get some business from, and start following them, and then show an ad to them when they are on Twitter. So you're not going to spend a lot because the impressions are probably pretty low, but you could be seen by the people that you want to be seen by. So that is a pretty cool component to Twitter. Corey, I know we have some recent poll results. Do you want to go over those and talk about a little bit about how people are managing their social media?
Yeah. So in this latest round, we asked, how is it being managed? Who's creating the content? And a lot of it seems to be the folks on the call are the ones who are managing and kind of giving final approval to the sales and marketing campaigns that they're pushing out to their social channels. Another mix is someone else on the team that's directly responsible for marketing and sales is the second most popular answer in both of those categories. And then when it comes to the actual content itself, we actually have over half of the respondents are already using Canva for their image creation and all of that, with another big chunk kind of relying on the social media channels in-house application for editing. And then when it comes to the most important factor for a beautiful social media post, top answer is professional looking imagery and photography. Number 2 is ease of creation and maintenance. And number 3, actually tied for 2, is a comprehensive brand.
Awesome. All right, that's some great information. So let's get into some of the Facebook's data here that we can go through and look at. We're gonna, Allie, if you're fine with it, I'm gonna go over this real quickly, and then we'll get into our details, and then we are gonna look at creating Facebook posts and ads in Canva, which I think everyone will be really interested in. So here's our kind of 3 major photography or sizes of things that we need to care about: profile picture, cover picture, shared image. Keep in mind on something like a Facebook post and LinkedIn post, your photo is going to be over this part of the header. So if you have anything important in that header image, you want some white space there, because otherwise it'll be covered up. Just something to think about. And again, Canva has templates, or at least predefined sizes for all of this in Canva. So that makes things a little bit easier. So real quick, and then we'll get into some of the design components with Allie. Some of the best practices, first thing, make sure you set up on business.facebook.com. That's going to give you kind of an ease of access point for your business. Facebook company pages, there's no login for them. It's all tied to people. So if you have, 1 or 2 people and maybe an agency you're working with and maybe a photographer that you want to give access to, setting up a business account allows you to do that. There's also some ways to share assets among people. So that's a good way that if you have some turnover, or if you have multiple people contributing photos and assets to the Facebook page, you can make sure that it's all in one place and not getting lost. Images used in posts can also be turned into ads. So it's something you have to consider when you're designing. A promoted post from an image that you load up needs to comply to Facebook standards, and it needs to be something that would actually look good in an ad. And there is an 80-20 rule. You may have heard about this. basically 20% of your text or 20% of your image cannot have more text in it than 20%. So 80% of your image needs to not have text in it. And they do that just to prevent a lot of kind of spammy messaging. And I also think from a design standpoint, Facebook wants you to, put the text in the actual post and not in the image. So that's something to look at. Facebook reviews are also really growing in importance. I see Facebook reviews coming through all the time, long reviews. So that's something that you can actually pull in on ads. It's also something that you could put into an image and use that as a Facebook post, with some of their permission, or grab a sentence or two and use that. That can be a good idea. And then finally, the Facebook ad library. This is a great place to snoop on some of your competitors' ads. And if you want to find it, just type into Google Facebook ad library, and the first result will take you there. Basically, you can put in any business or organization or political party and see what they are doing on Facebook and who they're targeting, and get an idea of even how much they're spending. So of course, this was really interesting to look at with politics, to see who certain campaigns were targeting and what part of the country and things like that. But nowadays you can use it to look at your competitors and maybe look at get some design inspiration from that as well, some brands that you really like. So let's take a look now in Canva. We're going to look at how to create a kind of better Facebook ad in Canva. So Allie, it's all you.
Okay. So whenever you're in Canva, most of you already have Canva anyway, so I don't want to take too much time going over what you may already know, but there are templates for certain social media designs, whether it be an Instagram story, a Facebook ad, a Facebook post, a Twitter post, whatever the case might be. So you can always click on that, and then over here in templates, it'll show you different templates you can use. If you wanted to use this template, you can, and then just put things from your brand in, different branding photos and text and all that. But for this webinar, what I created, remember our fake venue, Toronto Institute of Art. We made a mock Facebook ad. So I'm just going to walk you through the process. Scott asked me to kind of show everybody the design process of it. So what I did is I basically took, right now I'm using a stock image, but your best bet would be to use images of your venue that you have, because you want to showcase, your own work right here. You don't really want to use a stock image for a Facebook ad. You really want to sell your venue. So we're going to pretend that this is our venue image. So what I'm going to do is I like to go to the grid feature. In Elements. And basically what that allows me to do is grab my photo and just drag and drop, and it places it automatically for me. Now you'll see a difference in what the images look like, and there's a reason for that. Going back to the branding and the consistency of branding, you want to make sure that in your brand kit, you talk about photography. And, this includes overlays, it also includes, do you want to use black and white images? Do you want to use full color images, different filters that you use? So for our mock venue, we want a more moody venue. So we're filtering, and we're going to use the drama filter. The next thing we're going to do is, right now I'm just going to copy and paste just for time's sake. But basically you can create a square, and you can make it any color you want within your branding colors, and you can change the opacity here. So you can make it lighter, more transparent, or you can make it darker, whatever the case might be that goes within your branding. And then you want to put text in. So we have a tagline that we made up, and it's called Meet Modern. And then it's super easy. You basically select your text and you change your font to your brand. So whenever we had the branding kit in the beginning, I showed you, this is where all of your brand fonts will pull up that you've already uploaded. Plus Canva has its own fonts that they allow you to use as well. So we're going to use our venue font, which is this one. And you can change the font color. And again, here's where your branding kit comes in. See, these are the colors that we uploaded. So I'm going to change it to our brand colors. And one really cool feature that you can use is you can change the letter spacing of your text. So what I'm going to do, I like to make sure that everything's spaced evenly here and line everything up. And when you're working in Canva, you'll see these grids show up. I don't know if you can see that purple dash line, but these are grid lines, and it basically helps you center your text or your images or your shapes, any element in your design to make sure that it's centered. So I like where that's placed. And when you're designing an ad, you want to make sure that you have a call to action. Is that better for everybody to see, or do I need to make it smaller? Is that better, Scott?
I would zoom in just a little bit where it was. That's great. Thanks,
Okay.
Al.
So you want to make sure that you have a call to action and something that's going to make a potential client click on your ad. So for this instance, we have a book now for 20% off your rental. Now, I don't know if 20% is too substantial from a venue manager standpoint. But we want to make sure that this ad's converting. So we're going to use our secondary font here, and we're just going to make it a little bit bigger and change the font color within our brand kit here. And one element I like to use is I want to sell my clients on the location. Okay, so our location is made up, it's in downtown Toronto. So you can use different elements in your designs. So I can literally just type in location in my search tool, and you'll see all kinds of different graphics that you can use or images you can use in your designs if you scroll through. So for this purpose, I'm going to use this element. And you can change the color to match your brand. And you can make it bigger or smaller, however you want. And for time's sake, I'm just going to copy and paste our text here, but I want to show you where these grids are showing up. So it's showing you that it's centered with the icon that I just put on the graphic in our ad. So this goes back to Scott's 80-20 rule. So you have more image in your ad than text, and you have a call to action so that when somebody's scrolling through Facebook, they can see your ad offer, and you can target your audience based on their location in Facebook. Scott, I don't know if you want to talk about that, but because it's located in downtown Toronto, you can set up your target audience.
Yep. And Allie, there's actually some really cool feature here that I think would be nice to show people. Kind of at the top, there's the little animate button in the top row there next to the search bar on the left. And if we click that, there's a lot of different animation ways that we can use for this image to load as basically as a video. And so, you know, on Facebook ads in particular, having a video show up that's a little 5-second video, you're going to get a lot more impressions in Facebook when you upload that video as an ad. So that's a really cool way to take the elements that you've created on here. And of course, as you're seeing with Allie go through here, kind of make them get a little pop as people are scrolling through. So we get a lot of questions. How do you create a video? You know, I don't have a production budget. Well, this is an easy way to create a little 5-second video based on images that you already have and pull in the text that you already want to use. So pretty cool stuff. And, you know, of course, I like how you've got this built out. So you actually have 2 ads, you know, showing up. So you could actually talk, you know, have 2 different ads that talk to 2 different people with different text or different images, but all keep the same template and format look.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to build a true ad set.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty cool stuff. Okay. We are going to share the screen back here again on my end. And we are going to move into the next one here. I'll let my screen load here. So we have Instagram. So Allie, I know you have a lot of great stuff on Instagram. So I'm going to kind of skip over the sizing of things so that we can get into some of that. I'll bounce around a little bit actually here. So first, some best practices on Instagram. You know, Facebook and Instagram accounts are often followed by customers or the same people. So they might see the same post that you do if you do it on the same day or the same hour even. So something to consider is to do some offsetting posting. So maybe, Monday gets a post on Instagram and Wednesday gets that same post on Facebook, so that people don't feel like they're just overwhelmed with all the same posts on all the channels. Posts with emojis perform 15% better when they're used to start a post. It's kind of a cool thing. We see that actually with email marketing too. If you put an emoji in your subject line, because a lot of people are on their phones, they're looking at their Gmail or something like that. So the emojis actually show up as little photos. Same thing is true with Instagram. Since you're on your phone, it actually shows up as like an actual picture. It's a little bit bigger for people. And then engagement on engagement by wedding venue planners on Instagram is actually 11 times more than on Facebook. So if you are going after wedding venue or you're going after wedding planners, definitely be on Instagram. That is definitely something that we see a lot of activity on. So that's a really good place to be. And again, I think some of these social channels are starting to become certain things for certain people. And Instagram is definitely more photography based. So, for venues, I would almost put Instagram ahead of Facebook and others, just because it's so heavily used for people for those purposes.
And I just want to add in on there too, Scott, from a wedding standpoint, whether it's a bride or a wedding planner who's looking for a specific venue type, think about your target audience and what they might be searching. A lot of times, those potential clients are using hashtags in Instagram to find pictures or photo inspiration. And it could be a lead generator for you. So if I'm a bride and I'm looking for like a barn wedding, I might type in my search, hashtag rustic wedding or hashtag barn wedding, and it'll pull up, if you have that hashtag in your caption, it'll pull up your image, in the search, in the find. So I think that that's a great way for planners to utilize Instagram in addition to venues, because they can use that as a way to find a specific inspiration or a venue for what they need.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's talk about filters.
Yeah, so Instagram has a lot of filters that you can choose from. And one thing I want to say, we're going back to the consistency is key here when it comes to marketing and branding, because it builds that trust. Canva has actually a really great article, and I'll actually include the link for Corey to send to you guys as well. For you to read, but it basically outlines the top filters in the US and the top filters throughout the world that people use on their Instagram. So you're looking at my dog. This is Daisy, and you'll see the image on the far left. That's just the normal picture of her with no filter on it. The second image is the filter Clarendon, I believe is how you pronounce it. That is the #1 filter in the world. It's the most popular. Basically, the article was saying that people prefer it because it's kind of light and bright and airy. So that's #1. The second one is Gingham, and the third is Juno. So you can see the differences in all the filters as you look from left to right at Daisy May.
Awesome. All right, let's take a look at one of our award-winning clients, actually, Galena, Illinois.
Yeah. So I don't know if they're on the call today or the webinar today or not, but they are a 2-time Best of Award winner for social media with unique venues. If you have some time, please go follow them on their Facebook and Instagram channels, Pinterest too. They have an amazing social media presence, and they do it right. And so I have some screen grabs here. It's a little blurry, so I apologize for that, but I do have some screen grabs of their Instagram grid. So on the first one, Scott, do you want to talk about SEO whenever you set up your Instagram account and kind of what captions and things you need in the top
Sure. Yeah.
of your Instagram?
Yeah, so you can see they're obviously using some emojis here, right? So they're keeping it nice and fun and light. They've also included some of their hashtags in their kind of bio profile there. I actually don't see a lot of people doing that. I think that's a great idea, right? It really helps them kind of own Galena County and Forever Original. Again, it's a brand reinforcement one, and then also their actual brand essentially being used there. So I think that's great. They're also using the link tree link feature. This can be a great thing for you, you know, to have a link out to your website, have a link out to your other social profiles. You could have links out to unique venues if you wanted to, you know, anything you really wanted to add in there. That is the way that you get links. And I think even more so, people are used to using that now. When they see a post, if someone actually puts in their Instagram post, you know, link in bio, like we know what that means now, right? So we need to go to the bio, click the link tree, and then go to whatever someone has said. So if you have a seasonal special that you want to do, you know, you could put that in there and link to it, link to a blog post, you know, anything like that. So that's a pretty powerful way to capture traffic through Instagram.
Mhm. So one thing I want to note is they use Instagram story highlights. And if you're not familiar, basically what you do is when you post Instagram stories, you can save those stories and categorize them in different categories. So you'll see they have a Christmas category or a fall category, winter and spring. They really play up on the seasons. And as you can see in my screen grabs, the center screen grab you'll see is more like fall. And I think they have so many amazing photos. And one of the things that they do amazingly is they tell people to use those hashtags Galena Country and Forever Original when people are out exploring Galena, Illinois. And so people will tag them in their posts and then they reshare them on their social channels, which is one of the ways that they have such amazing photography on here. And they do it in a really smart way. And the other thing you notice is they all have the same filter on them. I don't see anything that has a dark and moody filter and then a really light and bright filter. And I don't see one that's all black and white and one that's all really bright colors. It's very consistent looking and it goes with their brand as well as their story highlights. You can see the color palette that goes with their brand standards as well. So that's something that they do that's really smart. So if you get a chance, follow them on social. They do a great job.
Awesome. Yeah, and the story highlights, this is where that is right here, right, Allie? Oops.
Yep.
I click,
That's
it goes in this one. Yeah, so they've got, you know, they have a mask up story highlight, and then they have ones for different seasons. So that can be a really nice way to kind of reinforce some of the brand and get people into the right place. And also be ready to go for when someone's, you know, maybe booking for next fall. Even though it's not fall right now, they can still take a look at what it's going to look like back in fall.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. So let's take a look at creating an engaging Instagram story on Canva.
Okay. So I'm not going to walk through the actual design of an Instagram story, but what I wanted to do is kind of show you how you can use Instagram stories to help market your venue to your target audience. So for our mock venue, we are using our Instagram stories to attract either wedding planners or the modern bride is what we're calling it. So notice how we used our brand colors as the backdrop. We used every image in our stories has the same filter that we've been using. That's the kind of moody, dark filter. So if you can almost imagine you're on your cell phone and you're kind of scrolling through, this would be the first story that you would see. And basically Instagram stories is used to tell a story, right? So this is how our marketing could look if we were this particular venue. So our first, slide tells you exactly who the target audience is for. If I'm a bride in this demographic, I would immediately be drawn to this story and I would want to click through. So the next slide in our Instagram story, we used a mock testimonial here. So we said a modern, stylish space, the perfect backdrop to our wedding. And that's something that as a venue, make sure you're collecting testimonials from past clients so that you can reference them in your marketing and recycle them throughout. And one thing that Scott was talking about earlier this morning, not on this webinar, but he was saying, it's nice to kind of frame really important topics or quotes or information. So that's what we did in this Instagram story is we kind of framed the testimonial. So then as you continue through the story, we want it to be engaging, right? So we have something on here that says, ask us anything about our wedding spaces. And if you're a venue that doesn't offer weddings, it could say, ask us anything about our conference spaces or ask us anything about our catering. It could be any topic that or anything that service that your venue provides. So then you have different places on your stories for people to interact with you and engage with you. And then you can reshare those questions and how you'd answer them. Or even better, maybe later on, you know, put something at the end of your slide deck that says, join us on Instagram Live as we answer all of your questions at 7 Eastern on Thursday or something. And then you can go through all the questions that you receive in a live format and answer them and try to sell. This is basically a lead generator. Try to sell your venue. Make sure that when you're using images, again, you're using the same filter that goes with your brand, keeping it consistent. Try to, in this case, I'm using stock images because I'm not a real venue, but as a real venue, use your own images in your background. I have more spaces and, you know, offerings that our potential venue could offer. And then you kind of want to reel them in at the end. And I have September weddings booking now. So you kind of want to build up that sense of urgency and let them know if they're interested, they can reach out to you on Instagram. They don't have to go to a form. You don't have to direct them to a separate landing page, or, you know, because they might lose their interest the more times they have to click. We're kind of in a society where we want instant gratification. What's the word I'm looking for, Scott? Instant gratification. And, you know, the less they have to click, the better. So you can just have people respond to you directly on your Instagram stories, and then use that as a way to capture leads when booking event types at your venue.
Awesome.
Always make sure you have a call to action.
Yeah, absolutely. I see a question in the chat about how do we take an image like this for Instagram and resize it for other places? Can you just click that resize button at the top left and show people how that works? So here's, you could basically create your own custom size, or you could use one of the predefined sizes. And basically when you check these off, it'll just open up multiple tabs with all of your images and text saved. And you'll have to like reformat some of it because it won't look perfect, but it'll at least give you all the elements that you need to kind of resize and start working with things.
See, you'll have to resize some of it, but it does a great job.
Yeah. Yep. And a little trick too on the resizing, if you go back to that kind of longer image that you were just moving around and double click into it, you know, you now see the full image, and yeah, you can scale it in and out, you can move it up and down. So when you are resizing images, this is the way to kind of reframe things and make it look a little bit better than what they kind of resize things as. So that's a cool trick. I use that a lot actually. So, all right, cool. Well, we are getting really close on time. I'm going to share my screen back here. We still have 2 more to go on. Corey, if we go over a little bit, is that okay?
Yeah, if you need to run, just as a reminder, this is being recorded, so I'll be sending you a link to this recording once it's uploading, so you won't miss a thing if we go over today.
Okay, sounds good. So let's talk about YouTube. There's kind of 3 important components here for YouTube. We have the picture of your profile. We have the cover photo, which actually, if you look at the pixel size on this, it's pretty massive. And then you have video thumbnails. And I know Allie wants to go through kind of showing how to do more with the video thumbnails. So I think that would be a good place for us to dive into, take a look at that, because that's something that we probably all know we need to create a custom thumbnail, but don't know how to do it or haven't done it in a while. So let's take a look at that.
Okay. So whenever you're in YouTube, I'm not going to go through and show you how to design a thumbnail just because of time. But what I would do is I would download my image here that I want to use. And then I can go into my YouTube studio, and when I upload my actual video, so here we are in the Unique Venues webinar one. Say I want to create my video. And here we go. You know, you type in your information here, and then there's a button here that says thumbnail, and you would click upload thumbnail, and you would put it here, and it would be the first image you see in your playlist for anybody visiting your channel or for like unique venues, we have our resources page, which is uniquevenues.com/resources. And you would see the thumbnail for the specific webinar, or when we send out our newsletters, we have those as the thumbnails in there as well. And I just want to show you what it would look like. So here's our playlists that we would go to. And as you can see, here's a thumbnail and what it would look like.
Now, Allie, one important thing about this is if you have a website that's pulling in a YouTube video, whether it's embedded or you're using the feeds, it's going to show that thumbnail first, right? So it's not just a random kind of first shot that gets seen.
Yep. And if you don't put a thumbnail, what it will do is it will pull a screen grab from within your video. So it might be kind of like maybe somebody's making a weird facial expression in the screen grab. It might not make the best first impression. So again, consistency is key, and you can create them in Canva. You can use your brand standards, use the same color palette and typography, filter over your image, and it's all cohesive among all of your channels.
Awesome. And playlists are pretty important too, right? I mean, you can create a playlist for your venue, but you could also create one for different rooms or spaces or cities even around you that you want to pull things in for.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can create as many playlists as you want. You can target them to different audiences. Like Scott was saying, maybe you want to have a wedding channel where you post videos of your venue walking through, weddings or how to do a wedding setup. You could do a channel about youth camps. Maybe your venue hosts a lot of youth sports camps, and you could post, maybe you have like a soccer camp one week and you could post different soccer camps, and then you have football camps and you can post videos of that. So categorizing your different playlists by event types is a smart way to do it as a venue. And if you're a planner as your business, you could even categorize based on the types of events that you plan. So
great idea. Yeah.
And since we're on the topic, this is a question, it's not directly related to YouTube, but Instagram. Because there's a couple of different ways that you can post videos on Instagram. There's the regular videos, just a post, there's Reels, and there's IGTV. Do you have any thoughts on which video style is best on Instagram, and what the folks on the call should be considering when it comes to those options?
Scott, is it okay if I jump in?
Oh yeah. You probably have more answers than I do.
I like the idea of using Instagram Live, because I think it's a great way to connect with your audience. In that example I showed you with the Instagram stories, use questions to gain feedback or find out, questions from your target audience, and then use everything that they're providing to you and create an Instagram Live around it. It'll save. You can use a story highlight in your Instagram that says like Instagram Lives or something like that for people to continuously refer back to. But I like the idea of engaging with your audience in that manner. And then basically from a marketing standpoint, you can kind of keep recycling things that you're doing in your marketing efforts. So maybe it's a blog post. Maybe you jump on an Instagram Live to talk about a blog post that came out today about your catering trends for the summer. Maybe you want to do an Instagram Live with the chef at your venue, and you want to go over the top 5 catering trends, and you could show him or her creating the recipe. I think it's a great way to connect with your audience. I think that Reels can be quite time consuming, if I'm honest, and I think that your time is more valuable. And the idea of marketing using social media, in my opinion, is to gain more leads and engage with your clients or potential clients. And I think that that's the best way, in my opinion, to do that.
Yep, that's great. I saw a question on here. If we have limited time and resources, how should we do all of this that we just talked about today? My answer on that would be do one of them really well. And then as you have more time and things are starting to come together, look at another channel. So go be on Instagram and do it well. Design it, get some good photography, spend your time on that, make sure that people see it. and then what you're going to find is, oh, hey, this photo is great. I should share this on Facebook. So Facebook, Instagram probably are coexisting together well, because a lot of it is the same kind of photography and messaging. YouTube is different because you're obviously dealing with video. Twitter might be different because it's a different type of content and type of person you might be reaching. So go do one well, and then kind of expand. Don't make a new bubble, expand your bubble. And maybe your expansion of the bubble is moving from Instagram to doing also Facebook. So speaking of, let's take a look at Pinterest, which is a really fun one. And I think it's one that's really relevant for a lot of people, especially if you're going after wedding business, because it's a significantly heavier demographic on the female side than men. In fact, it's about 70%, women are still using Pinterest. And so, the design elements of things makes a big difference, and how you might connect with someone on Pinterest makes a big things. I saw, this was actually a new stat, posts without faces on Pinterest get 23% more pins. So it's less about the people and more about the thing or the space that you're trying to show off. So that's something that I just learned that recently. I thought that was a pretty interesting stat. Another idea for Pinterest is cross promoting your Instagram handle, and include that in the description of your pins, so that there's an assumption there that if someone maybe sees an Instagram post or sees a pin, they might want to then go follow you on Instagram. So those are some amplification pieces. Ali, I know you have some ideas on the kind of more design side. What should you include for Pinterest?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing I want to remind everybody on this webinar is that Pinterest, think of it more of like a search engine, right? When you're on Pinterest, you're typing in certain keywords and, things that you're searching for. I almost use it the same way I use Google. So when you're on there, you want to make sure that as a company, you're pinning or putting posts on a board that would be relevant to your target audience. But again, recycle a lot of your content that you're using in your marketing. So, blogs are huge. What you want to do is you can just use the image in your blog header, use that as your pin, and, make sure you put the title of your blog on that actual pin, and, direct people back to your site. So basically the goal with Pinterest is to create visually appealing pins, right? Using best SEO practices in your captions, and directing people back to your site or a landing page, or your Instagram, wherever you want them to go. But things that you could post on your company's Pinterest page are, blog content, infographics for sure, paid and free resources. Maybe you offer a guide for brides. And you're going to use that as a way, a lead capture for your venue. Maybe you can post that as a pin and direct people back to your landing page that, give us your email to join our mailing list and receive this free bride guide. That's one way to not only grow your email list, but also capture a lead for a potential client. And then also using images of your venue on Pinterest is huge. And again, you can also use hashtags in Pinterest as well, in your caption. And Scott, I know we're a little over, but could you kind of go over what long tail keyword means and how they can utilize that?
Yeah, sure. So, a long tail keyword is a word or a phrase. It's more of a phrase, almost a sentence. Instead of going after, let's say Charlotte wedding venues, maybe we think about what type of venue we have, and it's rustic and it's in a barn, and, maybe we're LGBT friendly. So all of those could go in as a keyword or a phrase that someone's going to be searching for. So, Charlotte LGBT rustic wedding venue. It almost makes sense. So if you can own a couple of those and they get a decent amount of searches or interest, you're going to be showing up in organic search results in Google. You'll also be showing up when people do searches in Pinterest. So the more competitive keywords from an SEO standpoint and from an optimization of Pinterest pin standpoint are not the ones to go after. It's really the really unique ones that people want to look for.
Mm-hmm. Things that do great on Pinterest are recipes. So if your venue has its own in-house catering, I would highly recommend posting, or creating your own, maybe have a board of cocktails and mocktails, have a board of appetizers, have a board for something that's kind of kitschy and unique. So maybe you're doing an event for like Cinco de Mayo. Maybe you have a board dedicated to that. Show pictures of how you decorated for the event and the types of food and recipes that you had. So categorizing your boards in a smart way. I heard somebody once say the riches are in the niches. And, it's really important on platforms like Pinterest to really narrow that down to specific niches and attract those certain potential clients.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, if you can own a certain segment, a small or medium-sized one, I think it's a place to do that on Pinterest. In fact, you can see one of our recipes here that we came up with. I think maybe it was for Unique Venues annual member conference. So we put up some interesting things on our Pinterest page as well. So, all right. Well, we're obviously out of time. We've gone over almost 10 minutes here. We appreciate everyone staying around. We do have kind of one last thing we want to leave you guys with. We are really excited about, kind of resurgence of business and things around the country starting to open back up. And with that, there's a lot of social media activity that's happening. People are definitely getting more engaged with brands. So Corey, would you like to share a little bit about how people can take advantage of Allie and my brain to get a little more leverage out of their social media channels?
Absolutely. So we've got a couple of in-house offerings with Unique Venues. On Allie's side, we do offer some design work, whether that's for one-off situations, you need one ad created or multiple. There are different ways that we can create kind of relationships with you and your brand to help make sure that we're creating and designing content for you that can be used, once or multiple times moving forward. So there's a lot that we can offer in that regard. And then Scott, as part of our consultative team, offers some strategic initiative overview consultations for social media, whether that's, strategizing and implementing your brand on social media, or just reviewing what you're currently offering, doing an audit, or actually taking on that work on a month-to-month basis to creating, posting, and engaging with folks on social media on your behalf. So there's a lot of different ways that we can support you and help you at Unique Venues with your social media marketing and sales. I know that I've, created the poll question that, you could reach out and let us know what you're interested in and when you're interested in. So we'll be reaching out to you if you've already filled that out. But if you didn't fill that out, and if you heard me kind of explain some of the things that you can do, Joel Hoff, who I'm sure you've seen, does really kind of manage all of the consultative work that we do. He can be emailed at Joel, Joel, at uniquevenues.com.
Yep. And we do social media audits. So if you already have something going and maybe it needs some refreshing, you just don't have the time to do it or don't want to think about it, we can do a one-time social media audit. Another cool thing that we do is we can do quarterly check-ins. So if you have a small team and someone's managing it, but maybe it's not their primary role, we can get together once a quarter and just talk about the data that's there, look at what's working, what's not, what are some of the things you need to look for the future. So we are very flexible in that sense. And we realize everybody has different teams and budgets and, different ways that they're maybe on social media. So lots of options there. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and thank everyone for joining us. We had a lot of fun putting this together, and this was kind of our first one that we've done that's a little bit more in the weeds, getting in and doing some of the work, in Canva. So we hope you enjoyed that. And if you did love that, let us know. If you want to see more of these, we'd love to do them.
Thanks, Joel and Allie, or Scott and Allie. Sorry, I'm just so used to just bouncing it back to Joel. Scott, I know your name. And I guess I'm just wondering, is Toronto Institute of Art, are they open for business? Like, I was kind of feeling the vibe of the.
What? I kind of wish I went there. I wish it was a real place. But yeah, maybe we can create something.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Scott and Allie. This was great content. I've thrown up on the screen for you the next couple of sessions that we've got available. We will be adding more in the coming weeks. We always like to promote that on through email when that's ready. So keep an eye on your inbox. In the very least, I'll be following up with you shortly with a recording of today's session and the poll reports and some of the great resources that Allie and Scott mentioned. So thanks, everyone. Have a great day, and good luck with everything that you're doing in the next couple of weeks. Best of successes. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.